So is my screen visible and am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, great friends. Welcome to final session of KPI and final session of MPG for June half. So I hope you have understood the previous two sessions. It is basically a kind of a metric or an indicator to see where you are and where you want to go. And this is one of the classical, say, examples in that if we try to measure it tangibly or intangibly. Usually we can measure this tangibly as well. So as usual, all my presentations begin with thanking Lord Almighty. He's given me much more than what I deserve. So this is my brief CV. You all are aware of it by now. So today we'll be discussing the logical and the practical aspects of KPI and metrics. You have given, I have given you enough indicators, the 27 indicators in first, then along with the 4 most common KPIs. Then in the next, I gave you 6 marketing KPIs along with the most commonly used or the wannabe 11 KPIs for every medical dental practitioner. So I'll be giving a few more today. The only thing is that then you have to pick and choose as per your need what you want to apply in your practice from those, all of those. As I said, apart from the commonly used 1, 2, 3, 4, we all are not using much of them, but it is on you which all you want to pick and choose as per your clinic's condition. It's not that what I use, you have to use that mandatorily. You can pick and choose your own where you can measure your growth. So the paradigm is different for everyone. So that is the way we have to go about. So we as dentists are often unaware of actually how are the practices performing. We just rely on only say 2 indicators sometimes. The patients coming from their practice, from our colleague or neighborhood practice. I've stopped going to that dentist because he is having too much rush. The second indicator sometimes the lab guy, if you share a common one. आप काम नहीं निकाले हो, उनका तो बहुत अच्छा काम निकल रहा है. Maybe they are lying, maybe they are not, then that is a separate proposition altogether. But these are the only 2 common indicators that we can use. Yes, the third indicator can be a proxy indicator like a marketing ad you come across from your neighbor. Maybe you silently track the website and check out the visitor list. So all these are kind of a proxy indicators which you are actually trying to. But the direct indicators for your colleagues can be these 2 usually. Your lab guy and maybe a patient indirectly telling you why he left the dentist. You don't look at the brighter side that the patient left the dentist because he was not able to do a great deal of customer satisfaction or patient satisfaction. And that is where if you excel in that trait, you can actually score a notch above your competitor. But we try to look at, अच्छा उसके पास ज़्यादा patient है, मेरे पास कम है. We get bogged down into that mental aspect, mental blockage. Oh, this is my OPDs. That is the reason it is going down. So we don't actually know it. Then we blunt funda मारते हैं ना कि नहीं. We know if somebody asks your competitor, your neighbor is charging this much. So we use good materials. We are not sure what materials they use. I always say, did you really go to that clinic and open up their drawer or refrigerator to check out what materials are they using? We actually really can't unless the same neighborhood dentist is a friend. And usually the friend dentists rarely remain friends for longer duration. But classical example, 2 big periodontists practicing in Chembur, Mumbai, and very good friends, Dr. Ajay Kakkad and Dr. Kumar Swami. So both of them are in Chembur, and even another of their friend is also practicing close by. I don't remember the name. But then this is the kind of chemistry you have to build up. So yesterday night only you saw Dr. Suneet also in my sessions. My most, except one of my neighboring dentists, all of them are in my WhatsApp groups as well, learning with me, sharing with me what I am doing it. So I have no such fears, and I believe you all should not have it. Trust me, people post me queries in the personal. Why? I ask them, why don't you post this query in group? Sir, mera baju wala dentist is in that same WhatsApp group only. Is this the reason to not ask the query? Your wish. So what exactly, if you are not aware of those practice indicators or KPIs, what negative outcomes can it have? Obviously, you will have not using your staff potential to the fullest. Your revenue that is gone is gone if you are not utilizing your chair side time, not your staff, even your patient satisfaction potential. If you're not using your man hours properly, the working hours properly, you are actually losing out on the revenue. An hour wasted in the clinic time of the operating time of 8 hours, 7 hours, whatever time you work, is actually some money lost. So either it is the lack of scheduling, either it is the lack of your staff management, or either it is the lack of your own judgment that you gave an appointment for 1 hour, but the appointment lasted 1 hour 20-25 minutes, and the patient already appointed was not ready to wait. Nobody wants to wait these days. Then our costs are increasing. Otherwise, also due to inflation and due to COVID also. Then if the patients are less, staff only start asking you questions. Sir, patient नहीं है आज क्या? आज खाली बैठना पड़ेगा सारा दिन. इंस्ट्रूमेंट स्टरलाइज तो हुए पड़े हैं, डस्टिंग भी हुई पड़ी है, सफाई भी हुई पड़ी है, आज क्या करें फिर? So this is the thing. These kind of questions actually will lower your morale, which will there. And then when you work in such morale, you ought to lead to less than output of your own in the patient work, and which leads to poor patient satisfaction. And of course, all this leads to a low practice value. So you should be aware of the indicators. And for that, the best characteristic I would suggest is a benchmark. What exactly is a benchmark? Where you are in relation to a particular industry standard in terms of not only work, but in terms of what you employ in your work practices. Whether it is the use of a software, whether it is the use of certain materials, whether it is the use of the essentials like a rubber dam, you need to understand where you stand as per the current industry standard. Are you still using that 10 rupee polishing cup to polish your composite restorations? You need to ask yourself. So there are a lot of things, a lot of updates happening in dentistry. And if you are not in sync with your changing times, you are actually, you would say you are stagnant or actually going down. So always compare and evaluate what exactly are the colleagues doing. The social media throws you out a lot of spanners. A lot of cases are discussed. People actually just even don't download the images. Con case dekhe. Yes, there are few who actually look at those cases diligently, but there are usually the silent lurkers who actually just try to go through the case and understand, wow, बहुत अच्छा case है, हम कब करेंगे ऐसा case. That is the thinking they all have it. The only thing is that the performance needs to be measured, and unless you measure something, you cannot actually calculate where you are and where you want to go. So what can be the areas where you can do a benchmarking? Usually in European and American countries, I'll give you a lot of data of those countries today to give you further indicators of the further KPIs that you can compare. Of course, not all of them are applicable in India because their working system, their billing system, their advertisement system, their insurance system is completely different from what we have out here. But yes, even then, still there are certain things that you can measure or maybe take a cue from them. So these are the various areas: financial, admin, clinical, patient satisfaction, timeliness, staff performance. So let's go further in there. So the only thing is that you actually compare the same, comparing the clinician performance. What exactly is the difference between your colleagues' practice and the applicable industry standard? There might be, if you are comparing only with your neighborhood practices, you might be better off them, maybe in certain regards. Maybe again the same feedback from the patients, from the lab guys. नहीं नहीं आपका तो बहुत अच्छा सिस्टम है, वहां पे तो ऐसे नहीं होता है. Maybe you feel you land up in a false paradise. But yes, you need to remember one Hindi proverb: अंधों में काना राजा. You don't have to become that अंधों में काना राजा. You really got to be the one with the two eyes. And if the industry standard is 2 or 3 or 4 eyes these days, 2 at the front and 2 at the back, just for an example, as an analogy, I'm saying. And if you are with one eye, you are actually maybe the best in your area if your whole area is blind. Not realistically, but metaphorically speaking. But if the whole area is blind, if you are with the one eye, you are better than them. But you are way or say 25% of the industry standard if the industry is now developed 4 eyes, just to compare that. So what is the power of benchmarking? It actually will help you to identify any areas in your practice before they become bigger problems. बोलते हैं ना व्हीकल अगर हल्का सा मिस मारने लगे लग जाता है कोई ना कोई प्रॉब्लम आने वाली है. इफ यू इग्नोर इट and then the problem and you sometimes are stranded in the middle of nowhere because you ignore the first symptom. Sometimes we are too busy in the proceedings that we ignore the process itself. That is one proverb that I've written a couple of years back. I use that very often. We are too bogged down just OPD निपटाने में होता है and we actually ignore the symptoms, ignore the small signs rather I would say, the small signs that are arising. Rarely a problem would occur where you would say that सीधे ही खराब हो गया. No, there is always a small spark first which actually leads to a bigger fire. If we ignore the spark, we cannot blame the fire later on. It is we who are to blame for that. So think of it as a flashlight where you can actually go into the hidden areas and find out things where you are lacking or where you are not. And obviously, once you are in sync with the benchmarks of the industry, of your growing in dental industry, you can actually have a competitive advantage over other practices as well. So then always you can say you can leave your guesswork and always use the proper statistical measures to arrive at a KPIs or to arrive as a standards. So evaluate your performance and understand your practice strengths and weaknesses. Again, the SWOT analysis comes handy in over here. A lot many of you underwent SWOT analysis with me last year. So you know what SWOT is all about and what actually, if you have applied those principles that I finally left you all with, whosoever has done, there might have been some change in your life, in your practice. If yes, you have taken my advice seriously. But then SWOT is all about understanding that and your practice areas, operations, and the bottom line, what your practice stands for. That is the only way you can predict that where it is currently and where do you want it to go. But then the change does not happen only with the coach. It happens with the team also. अगर क्रिकेट की कह लो there's a match going on and you say you need 300 runs in 150 balls, maybe in a T20 match for example, maybe you can say 200 runs in 120 balls in 20 overs. So if the coach is only keeping a track of the scoreboard and the scoreboard is not accessible to anyone, will the team who's playing in the middle or the batsmen who are playing in the middle, will they know actually where they are? They might be hitting it, they might have a feeling, they might have a guesswork. नहीं अच्छे रन मार रहे हैं हम लोग. Counting आप कितने तक कर सकते हो? There are certain things in life when you lose a track. But if the scoreboard is flashing in front of you, you can pace and plan your innings like that. Yes, ab itne over mein itna, this is the bowler to target, and that is the where the run machine starts working. So that is where you have to take whole of your team, your consultant, your associate, your visiting, whatever, and your staff, front office, back office, whatever. What kind of practice you have? Maybe you have a single or a two assistant practice where you might not be having a front office staff. Fair enough. No problem in that. It is not mandated to have a receptionist in every practice. We have to respect the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 status. You can't have a receptionist in a tier 4. Yes, you can have it, but then people won't take it in that sense. Nothing wrong in that. A receptionist is not an industry standard. The only thing how you deal with your patients is still an industry standard. So your staff needs to be in sync with what you are doing and what you want to do. So what are the KPIs actually for that? You actually strategize, measure, innovate, propagate, and this is an ongoing process in a cycle where you actually cannot afford to miss even one of the headings. So role of KPIs we have already discussed, yet to give you a few of the advantages. So they are actually quantifiable financial and non-financial goals that will reflect the critical success factors. And obviously they can measure your future performance goals as well. And they are the ones which can measure the performance precisely and accurately. So what should an ideal KPI be like? It should reflect your practice goals. I want to double my OPD in 6 months. I want to double my revenue in 12 months. I want to have at least 20 new patients each week, whereas I'm having currently 5 new each week. So these are the kind of goals. If the benchmark is good or the KPIs are good, they can actually reflect the practice goals. And Again, factors which can lead to success. I'm going in for advertising, I'm going for paid marketing, I'm going for social media marketing, and I'm going to gauge that also, and I'm going to measure it that us practice say what is the source. If you remember the 6 marketing KPIs, what is the source, the lead by source, us source से मेरे को कितने आए. So yes, I will evaluate after 3 months that this is the source which is giving me a good amount of return. So what should I be looking at if I am going to invest in that? So this is the way you actually measure it. Again, ideal KPI has to be quantifiable. If you can't measure it, you cannot actually assess it properly. So the definitions or measurement should be constant. They should not be changing with every parameter. So yes, the choice may change. You may shift to a better KPI when your goals change, or maybe once you achieve one goal, maybe then you can shift to another one. Maybe your new patients is your first goal. The second goal may be new patients revenue. कि जो एक नया patient आ रहा है, कम से कम I should have a revenue of 10,000 or 5,000 from that patient. So that because that new patient now through the marketing KPI, we are aware if one patient is costing me this much per lead, for example, which I discussed in the previous session. So that patient is costing me this much. So I ought to make sure that a new patient pays me this much amount, 5,000, 10,000, whatever you want to keep. It is your wish. So that I can have a advertising budget or a marketing budget taken out separately from those new patients itself. And I don't have to dig a big hole into my pocket again. And I can continue with my SMM so that I can continue to give it a long rope as well, and I can measure it as well. So this is the kind of traffic you would want to divert to your clinic. You may be having a referral practice as well, but you ought to respect the lead through which an unknown new patient has walked into your practice. That is the power of marketing. But yes, once that patient walks into your practice, once he enters the door, the internal marketing takes over. The external marketing is purely over. So you don't go in for those things. So KPIs are actually the key for the lock, because they actually will provide you with an accurate assessment. And those are actually relevant and specific to the practice. And obviously, you don't need to have too many. I told you 27, and then I told you 4, then I told you 6 marketing, then I told you 11. I'll tell you a few more which are not used in India as well. I'll tell you those also. It does not mean you have to use all those 50, 60 indicators. Apart from the normal 2, 3 ones, I told you pick and choose as per your practice 3, 4, 5 indicators which can actually give you good results. So then always measure it over a long period. Don't measure over एक महीना किया था check, उतना result नहीं मिला. Maybe that month was a dull month. Maybe that month was a down month. So why do you want to keep that? Give it somewhat a good time to say give you results in that sense. And if, for example, giving you a few examples in that, if your patient waiting times are increasing, so how would you use benchmarking? There is certain thing wrong in your assessment, or maybe the previous patients are not walking in at time, or maybe you are not calculating the time that you are going to take on that patient, or maybe you have not conveyed to the patients properly, or you or your staff, that yes, you work on appointments and coming on time is absolutely important. Or maybe you knew it that we could tell it, but you thought this is a 20 patient who is giving me 80 revenue, so why should I tell that patient and spoil my relationship? But rules are rules. So if you try to compare it, for example, see the cartoon below. This is the pre waiting room. You have 3 other waiting rooms to wait in before you see the doctor or the dentist, if it isn't too late in the day. Remember, is this kind of a thing happening in your practice? If it is, then you really need to assess that there are certain things which are going wrong. This is just one indicator of patient waiting time. I told you patient waiting time is one of the key factors in measuring success as well. And again, at least once a week, at least one patient tells me for waiting time and one patient tells me for record keep. At least once a week, one patient minimum. And this is a thing which is common since many years now. People tell me we come to you from so far because you don't make us wait. People tell me this thing that we come to you because you have every record of us and we can even watch it or visit it if we need to कि ये filling मैंने कब किया, ये crown मैंने कब किया, and how much is the life. So it actually instills a confidence also in the patient. On the top of it, if I just explain you what are the internal marketing or the secrets to success, if I mention record keeping, waiting time, you'll say, wow, जिसको concept नहीं पता यार, is this a indicator? Waiting time, how can that help in your patient success? But yes, it is one of the indicators in today's time, especially when time is money. So then another thing, if your practice is gaining new patients at an astonishing rate, you were having maybe 3, 4 patients, 5 patients in a week previously. Now you're having about 20 new patients without any marketing. So how would you use benchmarking in such a case? You need to measure those things. Then if you are overwhelmed by too much of work, you need to realize that there are certain things which you are not doing good. Then what are the important things that worry you about your practice? यार ये चीज ना आ जाए, ये पेशेंट ना आ जाए, ये काम ना हो जाए, ये टाइम ना हो जाए. We all try to do that. So how do you worry against your performance against your neighborhood? So how are they doing? So are there areas that you think that you may be able to improve upon? For example, I told you the patient says, "Oh, doctor wait बहुत करवाते हैं. Appointment लेके जाओ फिर भी 1.5 घंटा लग जाता है waiting में." And you suddenly have a moment of truth with you. यार आधा पौना घंटा तो मेरे patients भी wait करते हैं. Not everyone is doing as per appointment exactly and accurately. There is some amount of waiting involved in every practice. Very few practices work on a zero waiting time system. And I can say mine is surely in that list. My patients, hardly 5 patients in the month will wait beyond their designated time of 5 minutes. We have a standard of 0 to 5 minutes waiting. Nobody waits more than 5 minutes, and that is conveyed to the patients as well. So this is a system. Yes, occasionally my estimates do go wrong. Maybe there is some emergency also. Maybe the patient walked in late. There can be innumerable factors. But yes, my patients are in sync with this communication for that reason. So what I mean to say is that if that is my strong point as per my SWOT analysis, that the patients are not made to wait, they are attended as early as they can. This needs to be conveyed. Needs to be conveyed as your S or strength to your patient. Maybe immediately they will not feel it. But once somebody has to wait for 3, 4 times, or maybe has been in that previous experience of waiting for a lot of time, those patients will actually realize the importance of the same. So then again, communicate with the staff, which is very important. Remember, if the coach knows the scorecard, team doesn't know it, the team is not going to chase. ये चीज याद रखेंगे तो कभी भी जिंदगी में you will not forget it, that how important is your interaction with your team. So remember that T20 example I gave you. So if you have to benchmark what is important to you, you want to benchmark certain things as per the industry standard, or maybe your competition, if you feel that your competition is also really a good one and you actually enjoy a healthy one with them. So the 4 basic methods for benchmarking: cost, profit, quality, and time. So these are the 4 methods. So what exactly are they? Let's see. So costs are basically your consulting, like your service fees, your support staff wages or salaries, your practice expenses like utilities, consumables, stationery, administrative, all those expenses, your direct and indirect costs. I hope the costs don't need a further explanation after those 5 sessions, I believe. So profits, again, the amount left over by payment has been received and all the expenses have been paid. Once you have done that, and what is your profit in that? So quality relates to the characteristic of meeting and maintaining the requirements and expectations of the patient and the manner in which they are perceived. S is equal to P minus E. Satisfaction is equal to perception minus expectation. Remember this. So quality is certain things that you actually, if you are actually following the, say, full on COVID guidelines, now that COVID-2 wave has kind of subsided. So even you are using maybe the head cover, shoe cover, and all those things, maybe the patient gown as well. Some clinics are using that those things, but those quality standards also need to be maintained. And if you suddenly stop them, the patients will feel that ये पहले use करते थे, अब ये cost cutting करने लग पड़े. So remember to set those standards only. If you have set them, be ready to maintain them. So time efficiency, again, time is a very important characteristic. And trust me, any one individual who does not respect time can never grow in life. I can tell you that from a personal experience. If you want to grow, you really ought to respect the time. And you really need to make sure that your efficiency is directly related to the time output. Yes, initially teething period might be there, but if you cannot have your desired work output consistently over so many weeks and months, and if you don't yield the desired results, trust me, you're going down in competition, because time is one thing which everybody has the same number of hours in each day. Some like me can sneak in an hour or two extra sometimes by getting up early and utilizing that silent time of the morning to maybe get double the results. So that is why if I can do at least a 2 hour work in 1 hour in the morning itself. So that is why I'm also a member of the 4 a.m. and the 5 a.m. club, by the book by Robin Sharma, the very famous one. So this is the way you can actually sneak in an hour or two, 26, 27 sometimes as well. But usually your hallmark depends upon these 4 qualities. So these are the 4 common benchmarks. Some would use them, some would not. So the only thing, again, how do you compare that? The old benchmarks. How much have you improved over time? This line I have been saying since many years now. You yourself should be your biggest competition. You have to compare with you yourself of the previous year and with no one else. पहले आप अपने आप से कंपैरिजन कीजिए, and then compare with your competition, with your neighbors, and then maybe with the industry standard. If you have not improved over the previous year only, and you're doing the same things what you were doing last year at the same time, of course COVID times discounted, the normal times I'm talking. So if you're doing the same things, how can you expect the world is remaining constant around you? The world is ever evolving, things are dynamic, and trust me, there is a lot more that has changed, because while you didn't bother to look outside the window of your clinic or the door of your clinic, the world has really changed fast. Then what are the goals that you set? Long term, short term, how far you still have to go? You set a goal that I will achieve that in 6 months, 12 months. How far you are still from achieving that after 1 year? Have your 6 month goal been achieved? How close are to your 1 year goal set now that it is 1 year? So your own practice is the first reference point that I have been saying since many years now. You can compare with a short-term initiative like a month to last month, as well as same time last year, what exactly has changed. Then you can say, this is the line I use in SWOT also. What things are you doing better than your competitors? You have to do that. Again, there are some proxy indicators only. You cannot actually measure certain things. Yes, if your neighboring dentist is putting a few cases on social media, you can compare the same from that also. Yes, he's done this case. Maybe I can realize, maybe I won't say it openly in face of my patient or anyone else or even my family, but this case has been done better than me. This is a better output. This is a better restoration. This is a better crown than me. And I nearly need to pull up my socks. So I'm not doing a few things better. Vice versa, you see the case, you maybe not overconfident, but you realize, yes, mine was a better case than this. So I'm glad that I'm doing this thing better than my neighbor. So these are a few things you actually need to be aware. But then there has to be a balance in what you do. It is not always about the money part. People still compare only uski kitni income, uske kitne number of units in the month. Those are the things only people are worried about. Remember, it is the work output, it is the work quality that will yield you big results over the period of time. It is not always about the revenue. The revenue shoot up may be temporary. I've seen clinics, those who had classical OPDs, some of them are my friends also. They have had an OPD of 35, 40, and today they are even struggling to have 3 or 4 patients in the day. Trust me, that is a reality. We need to really realize that where are we faltering? And unless you use those indicators, your practice KPIs, your benchmarks, you are not going to grow in life. So I'll give you now the KPIs commonly used in Europe and US. So what are the practice KPIs which are used? The number of available appointments, opening hours, the bulk billing versus private billing, patient fee generated versus potential patient fees. if that patient could have converted. We hardly use this KPI over here. So how quickly can you process payments and charges, bad debts, marketing and social media ROI, website traffic? Yes, apart from maybe the bulk billing, private billing, we actually, you can say even the processing payment, leave these two, but the rest of the things are applicable in Indian scenario also. Let's look a few more. So financial KPIs, key expenditure like medical supplies, wages, rent, doctor contract payments. So any expenses that are much higher than they should be, you need to realize maybe your vendor is not correct. Maybe you're buying more from your local vendor who's actually taking you for a ride. Or maybe you're using overrated products in the dentistry when there are similar kind of products available by other branded companies also. For example, we know Curare products are very good, but they charge a bomb for that. 3M comes with equally good products, but the pricing is much less than Curare. So that is the thing. Just an example. Sometimes you need to make sure that not that only that you have say we are all governed by the reality star ratings in the dentistry for the materials. So if the 3M and the Curare products both have a 4 or a 5-star rating, then there is hardly much to compare because that is the industry gold standard, the reality star ratings. So look out for those things which are actually giving you results. So then are you generating as much revenue as you can? If not, why? Is it your appointment problem? Is it your pricing problem? Is it your private billing? Again, the foreign thing. So, or maybe the use of your item numbers. Are you paying doctors and staff within industry averages? Does this match with perception? Why I am telling you these KPIs if they are not, most of them are not applicable in India? Because there may be certain practice within you only which can take a cue from here. Yes, I can maybe use this idea to apply into my practice. That is the way I do it. I do not use the set parameters. I use my own brain. I trust my top floor and I use to take, I take a cue from someone and I build it into a story. Sometimes that is the power of your brain that you have to utilize. Always an idea should be good enough for a tree, not for a seed, not for a plant. I would say it should grow into a tree. That is the power of your brain. And trust me, it is not me. All of us, all of you have this power. The only thing is sometimes we are not utilizing that power to the fullest because we are too busy in other trivial things which are not essential. To be in that business, to be in that sense, again, I always say you have to think, breathe, eat, drink, sleep dentistry. If you love your profession, you will do it. Anyone who loves his profession will do all these things. एंड ये चीजें अपने आप दिमाग में आएंगी. यू डोंट नीड अ स्पेशल टाइम. आज संडे है, आज मैं बैठूंगा और आज मैं इस पे सोचूंगा. ट्रस्ट मी, जब आप सोच के बैठते हैं ना तो हार्डली एनीथिंग कम्स इन द माइंड. I get my maximum ideas when I'm driving two-wheeler or maybe on a four-wheeler. So whenever I'm driving, I get maximum ideas. People get maximum ideas. Some of them get maximum ideas in toilet. So these are a few things you need to realize that wherever it is, always keep a pen and a paper handy. Of course, not in the toilet, I would say. So, but immediately when you come out, you should make a note of that. That idea should be good enough. That is how I work. Even while working on the patient, sometimes I get an idea of a PowerPoint presentation or maybe for an idea where I can elaborate. I tell my assistant, write down this thing on the paper. So maybe sometimes I'm not able to, as I'm wearing gloves. So maybe he's not helping me on the chair side. Maybe he's doing subsidiary work. So I tell him to write that. So if he writes that, when I am going to go into that thing, I recall that into that situation, how I am going to go that. So that is the reason I'm giving you this idea, so that you can actually grow upon this, build upon this, and maybe come out with new indicators for your practice. It is not that aapko sirf yahi use karne. Again, the employment KPIs which are used in Europe and US, staff availability, number of sick days, annual leave balance, length of service, retention rate, feedback about outstanding service, disciplinary actions. So it is like a broad range of results which can actually help you to review your practice in that sense. So the customer service KPIs which are used, on-time performance, customer service KPIs. You remember, you go to a Pizza Hut, there is a bell hanging over there. If you are happy, if you had a stomach full, if you are satisfied, just ring a bell when you are going. I hope most of the Pizza Hut terminals have that bell. So many European, US, say American subcontinent have a happy or not terminals as well. So if you are happy, ring the bell. If you are not, don't ring the bell. So then they have call tracking KPIs also. How many percentage of phone calls answered within 10 seconds or 3 rings? On hold waiting times, customer hang-ups, all these things, online appointment bookings, number of booking made online. यहाँ पे वो 10 सेकंड वाला कल्चर तो है ही नहीं है ना. पूरा रिंग, कई बार हम फ्री भी होते हैं तो नहीं उठाते फोन. ओहो, ये पेशेंट का फोन है, कौन बात करेगा, साइलेंट पे कर दिया इसी और. People do it sometimes. Then you need to realize that customer service, if you're free, is equally important. Yes, if not answered within 10 seconds, forget that. Calling back is equally important. But then those three heavy words come, heavy letters come in: ego, ego. We are the dentist, we are the doctor. Why should we call back the patient? It is the patient who is giving you revenue. Yes, I know many dentists have changed their mindset now in this regard, but still majority suffer with this only. We are the doctor, why should we call back our patient? Then nursing KPIs, again, not much applicable, but these are the ones which are used. Health assessment per month, chronic disease histories like diabetes, general practice management plans and reviews, diabetes, asthma reviews, nurse education, ECG, Spiro per month, vaccination rates of CDM patients, chronic diabetes mellitus or chronic muscular dystrophy kind of patients. So those patients. Then the doctor KPIs, which are used most commonly. The clinic parameters: average wait time, number of consults per week, average billings, bulk billing versus private piece, work covered, patient DNAs, rescheduled patients, and all those things, which are again very less of these are used in our country. But again, to give you an idea, if you can get those things from there. So if the real power of the benchmarking is the identification, then it is sure that you need to get an expert advice as well if you're faltering somewhere. So what does that mean is that if you identify, because identification is the first key to get the result. Unless you know the problem, you cannot treat it. So once you know it, and you know it that this has been identified now, but this is not exactly in my hand. So maybe I should get a professional advice, maybe you should get a practice manager, maybe I should consult a senior. How can I actually improve that? But if you rely on a hit and a trial method, remember sometimes the patients won't give you a second chance. I have had patients, I have told earlier also, I gave the medicines, advised the medicines to the patient, told them very clearly, kindly report to me if you develop loose motions, any allergic reactions. I tell that to every patient, and I enter, those things are entered in my record also, medicines which have been prescribed along with the allergy history. So telling the patients very clearly, don't always start the new medicine in the morning. Never ever even think of taking a second dose if you develop even the slightest of the problem without talking to me. There are patients who will say, the doctor gave me medicines, मेरे को लूज मोशंस लग गए. बोला था उसने लग गए, पर उसको अगर पता था इससे लगने हैं, तो why did he prescribe me? The patient did not actually understand properly कि it depends upon your immune system, not on my prescription. If you were needing that antibiotic as my first choice and you didn't report any allergy to it, so that means that is my first choice drug. But the patients think otherwise. अगर इससे लूज मोशन लगने तो मेरे को दिए क्यों? Or the patients have this mindset. You cannot actually go into your mindset of the patient all the time. Yes, you should many times, but you can't go always. It says, ये इस डॉक्टर को दवाई देने नहीं आती है, काम क्या खाक करेगा? Obviously, this has no correlation to your clinical skills, but this is the way the mindset of the patient can work. You have to understand that not everything that will do will be likable by the patient or lovable by the patient. But yes, you can do certain things best in your way. Communicate. अगर patients को lose motion लगते हैं, allergic reaction होता है, if you have not told, the first thing they would do is panic or disturb you in the middle of the schedule by coming to the clinic. If you have communicated, if you have any problem, talk to me on phone. And if my phone is busy, we will call you back within 10 to 15 minutes for sure. Don't call second time. This is again conveyed to the patient. How many of us actually do that? Very rare. Patients will keep on calling. कई बार patients इतने panic करते हैं, एक patient 4-5 बार call करेगा. And this happens even after we convey, because again, हर एक का mindset, हर एक का reaction potential is different. Some people will react in a different manner. Some will react in a different manner. So you cannot actually control everyone, but what you can control is things at your end. But if you are not doing things correctly at your end only, how can you expect the patients to follow you properly? That is what I want you to understand. So again, this thing should be in sync with your staff also. So whatever your problems you have identified as per your KPIs or your benchmarks, what are your fault, you have to take some action. And action taking will only bring results. If you just wait on कि opportunity आएगी, अपने ऊपर लद जाएगी, तो अपने को करना ही पड़ेगा. जैसे people say it, I don't take decisions, पर जब मेरे सिर पे पड़ती ना, I perform like a workhorse. Sorry to say, but that is the most stupid attitude I have ever come across. मतलब जरूरत पड़ेगी तो हम गधे की तरह, घोड़े की तरह काम करेंगे, वैसे हम गधे की तरह करेंगे. What is the logic in that? You are actually underutilizing your potential. Absolutely. साल में अगर ऐसे 2 दिन आएंगे तो that means you would remain free for 363 days. I'm sorry. Life is an ongoing process of improvement, continuous improvement. If you had this same attitude कि ऊपर आएगी तो मैं करूंगा last year and you're doing the same things and then you expect to grow, how? If you're doing the same things as your last year, then your growth will be the same as last year. If it was 0 or 5% last year, it will be same this year also. Don't expect changes to happen. Change will happen only if you are ready to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. That is the proverb you should remember always. So for bringing results in situation around you, you have to first change you and your situation. So unless you do that, you can't expect results. If you still want to remain in your comfort zone, you cannot actually grow. So then the power is in the steps planned, how you actually task out or chart out a plan that you want to go ahead, and not the numbers. Numbers can be falsified sometimes. They can give you an erratic result sometimes. Maybe 2 NRI patients walking in and they actually say escalate your revenue in that for that particular month. You will feel falsely satisfied. Okay, ये change किया था ना, अभी पूरा तो नहीं किया था, थोड़ा सा ही किया था, देखो कितना result मिल गया. That was a matter of luck. If the same thing happens, does not happen next month, you'll say, yeah, this thing does not work. पहले मैंने try किया था, देखो result मिला, इस महीने पूरा हुआ भी था, चलो, लेकिन उतना result नहीं मिला. The difference lies in the attitude. The difference lies in the application of the KPI properly. So KPIs are actually strong indicators or predictors of how your 3 E's, if efficaciously and profitably, EEEP I call them, the practice is operating. How you actually do that. So you can say statistics can be fitted in any scenario, but if you have to measure the numbers of your practice, I think now you would be very much aware after the GPM and the NPM, the numbers don't lie. As Shakira says, hips don't lie. The statistics or the numbers of anything, they don't lie. So they are the true indicators of whether you are growing or not. However you want to fool yourself in any kind of false paradise, नहीं मेरी ओपीडी पहले से तो बढ़ गई है, अब मेरा खर्चा भी कम हो गया है, बोलने से देखने से generalized statements won't help. If you are not actually measuring it, you are not actually calculating it, and you are not actually aware of it if the thing is not in front of you in black and blue. So if you believe that your practice is strong just because your volume of patient flow is high, you have to understand that the true potential of the business of dentistry is somewhere else if you use it via your KPIs. So some of you were living in that false paradise, namely my practice is profitable. After the application of 2 KPIs, GPM and NPM. In fact, that is 1 KPI only, the profit margin. So GPM and NPM actually stripped many of us bare naked. So that is the kind of power of KPIs has. But there is nothing wrong in getting stripped in that sense. The only thing is that we need to know where we are. And unless we know where we are, we cannot move ahead. If we believe that nahi, hum to wahan, we are already grown enough. जो मिल रहा भगवान की कृपा से बहुत अच्छा है, बस मेरे को और पैसे नहीं चाहिए. We need to realize there are certain potentials which you are not utilizing properly. So if you are failing to measure your KPIs significantly, you're actually undermining your practice potential. Then why have you say installed 3 chairs, 2 chairs in your practice? Why have kept 2 or 3 staff members? अगर इतने में खुश हो तो एक चेयर एक असिस्टेंट से काम चलाओ. Why you are expanding your facilities? Why you are investing in new gadgets? If you don't want to grow, if you're happy and satisfied with what you have, it is because the greed to grow, not always monetarily, I will say, The greed to grow is inherent in every individual. And greed is not always in terms of money or revenue or number. It can be stature based, it can be esteem based, it can be your, say, name and fame based. There are so many parameters for a greed. It is not always about the money part. But yes, if you track the important KPIs, maybe from the list of 4, previous one, maybe 11 I gave you, yes, along with the marketing KPIs, and maybe a few from this list I gave you this time, or maybe from that list of 27 that I gave you in the first session. If you are doing that, if you are applying 3, 4, 5 indicators which suit you and your situation best, not that you pick out the easiest ones, but which suit your situation the best, then you can actually be on track to measure and analyze all the key performance indicators. This is not a thing that you will keep on doing every day. Sara din you cannot be doing everything ki sara din hisab mein lage rahe. We can't do that. Now, once you have calculated your GPM and NPM, I told you in the previous session also, now that you have done it for the procedure, it will take time once you do it for all procedures. But you have that printed out, or say in black and blue or on your computer. ये मेरा RCT का है, ये मेरा Crowns का है. This is my GPM, this is my NPM. And once you go through the list, if you have made it yourself, you realize while working, that thing is in your subconscious mind. Yes, these things are the one which I am using and which are in my list also. Sometimes there would be a thing that you have stopped using now in your procedures, or maybe a new one you have started using. So you will omit or add accordingly in your list of GPM and NPM. So yes, a case may require a little bit of more materials, a little bit of more chairside time, but that, and similarly another procedure, similar procedure might require a lesser one. So what we have calculated is the average GPM and the average NPM. So it does not mean कि आप रोज वही चीज calculate करोगे, unless you change the armamentarium and the way of working for that procedure entirely. For example, you calculated the charge according to a manual root canal, for example, and you arrived at a GPM and an NPM. Now you have upgraded to the rotary system. You have installed an apex regulator also. You are doing certain other procedures also along with, maybe using sideway needles also, which you were not using earlier. So now your costing is in a different mood. Now you have to again calculate for that, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Once you do that, put it in black and blue, put it in print, you know it. Yes, now this is my standard. This is my GPM and this is my NPM. And you don't need to do it again and again. Similarly, for the KPIs, you need to evaluate on a monthly, weekly, sometimes initially, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, sometimes fortnightly, then monthly, then quarterly, and 6 monthly and 1 year. But once the system is settled, you may be measuring it maybe quarterly only, or maybe 4 times a year only. So the KPI is basically to change your mindset towards a particular procedure, to have a look at those things, that if I'm doing it, the procedure in a particular way, whether it is profitable for my practice or not. And if I calculate it, unless I measure it or calculate it, I cannot be knowing that. So this is the role of KPI. It does not mean कि सारा दिन आप calculation ही करते रहेंगे. Your parents will, बेटा तू dentistry कब करता है? तो सारा दिन mathematics और calculator सा लगा रहता है. So this is the thing you need to realize, that this is not a thing. This is a one-off thing, but then this thing fits in your brain if you put it in black and blue or in the print mode. So understand that again, the benchmarks would be the past and the previous years. So you need to revise your charging accordingly if your costing increases. You are now aware, ये मैंने costing लिया GPM NPM का, ये bottle मुझे इतने की cost करती थी. Now this bottle, this material is costing me this much. So you make changes when that material, when you are say getting after 3 months, 6 months into your ordering from your vendor or your dealer, you add those numbers in your already made GPM or NPM sheet, and you calculate it. अच्छा, मेरा GPM यहाँ कम हो गया, NPM has arrived at this number. So that means how can I compensate? Either I increase the charges, or maybe I take out one thing which is not so very essential in that. You can balance it out sometimes also. That cost, maybe some of things you may be using might be trivial. They might not be needed. But yes, accordingly, you need to realize that certain things which are mandatory ones should not be taken out. So dentistry actually happens at eye level. So that is where patient treatment happens, and your success will require an entirely different perspective. It is your way to look at the things that has to change, not exactly your way of working. Your way of working might already be perfect or very good, but it is your way of looking at the things that has to change. So KPI monitoring actually is the first step towards a better practice in that sense. So data analysis, हम लोग बोलते हैं ना, people companies spend crores and crores over data analysis. So what exactly it is? It is an approach, more of a technology requirement, because it is the mindset how you approach running your practice. That is what I say. Sometimes the change might not be needed in your way of working. It might be needed only in the way how you look at those things. And before you get lost in the weeds around technical jargon, let us see what KPIs actually tell us about our performance. It is not actually difficult to demystify the technical side, but again, remember, there were times जब पेपर रिकॉर्ड्स होते थे, रजिस्टर में रखते थे, those days were considered very cool. ये पक्का रिकॉर्ड है, इसमें चेंजेस नहीं होंगे. But most of us actually stored our data, access and organized in that. Many few people actually shifted to digital dentistry long time back. I shifted to record keeping digitally in 2002, and it's been 19 years that I'm maintaining my records on computers. Hard to believe for some, but yes, that is the reality. Now times have changed. This is the digital age. If you're still using the paper records, you're doing a mistake somewhere. So move with change in sync with the changing times. The data for analysis, for calculation has to be available at a mouse click. If it is not available at the mouse click, that means it is wrong somewhere. Because if it takes more time or not available, it is akin to not existing only. You need to remember that. But why do we need it? Let's see a flip side. I'll give you why do we need data? Why should you improve certain things to get better? For example, we talked about the case acceptance. What is the case acceptance rate? I normally put it at 72 average out of 10, but there might be situations where you might be getting a 90% as well. But there will be cases where your conversion rate might be 10% as well. So case acceptance के लिए क्या चाहिए? How do you measure that? मैंने तो पेशेंट को बहुत अच्छा केस समझाया था, कन्वर्ट ही नहीं हुआ पेशेंट. अब इसको फर्दर डाइसेक्ट करना कैसे? You have a KPI. My case acceptance percentage is you can say 40 out of 100, for example. It is 40 out of 100. Why don't my patients agree? Dissect it further. Maybe your case presentation is not good. It requires a strategy. Maybe your before after cases are not lucrative. Maybe you don't have a before after case. Maybe you don't have a demonstration video. Maybe you are not putting in much time. Maybe your staff is not doing the designated part which they have to do. Some people delegate some things to staff so that they deal with the FAQs later on. The staff explains the basic thing. Again, you can do as well, but then you have to put in some time. So sometimes you are too busy in your practice to put in that time. So if you don't present a case properly, or you don't actually tell the treatment plan to the patient in a proper way, how do you expect? Just based on your reputation? I'm sorry, that doesn't work this way most of the times. Yes, it may work in some, where the patients may have a blind faith, referred to you by your old, very trusted and very loyal patient. Will say, okay, fine. That colleague or friend of mine said, नहीं इस डॉक्टर पे आंख बंद करके भरोसा कर लेना. So whatever you say, whatever you do, just let me know the amount. I'll pay you, but I want a good work as my colleague had suggested you would do. Then suddenly you are in pressure. मैंने पेशेंट को बताया नहीं है. Suddenly there might be surprises. आपको bleeding होगी, आपको pain होगा in certain procedures. I'm not sure about the patient mindset. So you need to still have an insight. Even if the patient trusts you blindly, you need to have an insight. That is what I said. Change the mindset to look at those things. Again, how you guide your patient to the agreement. Agreement means the consent form, of course. How you actually make the patient agree upon your treatment plan. But then this speaks about your care standard as well. Again, care standard karenge, proper acceptance hoegi, to profitability automatically will come. That is the thing you have to realize. Now read this. The top 10% of dental practices have 90% patients saying yes to a component of the treatment plan presented. What it is. So always inform, I&E, alternate I&E that I call income and expenses ke alawa, inform and educate your patients about the systemic value of treatment to their health. The mouth is the gateway to the body. Everything you eat goes through your mouth. You have to inform this aspect. I keep on telling, once you treat the patient with the 3 E's, and before the patient leaves, do the alternate I and E so that the patient knows what he is doing, and then clarify the patient's understanding. They might take certain things in a different manner. I gave you the example of loose motions. Some people might apprehend it in this ways. अगर इसको पता था कि लूज मोशन लगनी तो क्यों दी मुझे, या इसको दवाई देनी नहीं आती है, मेरा ट्रीटमेंट क्या करेगा. You can't control the mindset, but you still need to understand the patient psyche some of the times, which you need to correct very, very clearly. Always answer their in the moment questions. Always be ready. You have seen this many times. You sometimes have questions in the presentation which I ask you to post, but most of those questions are sometimes already answered in the presentation itself. That is how you apprehend your audience. And similar way, you have to apprehend your patient's queries, understand their mindset. So including your non-verbal communication, evaluate your case presentation process, how you are actually doing that case presentation for acceptance, and including your non-verbal communication, eye-to-eye contact, sitting at a level, not looking here and there, not looking at your phone when the patient is speaking. Always empathize, always rephrase, always paraphrase what the patient is saying. This is the way communication is. Taken already a few sessions on communication. They're already on YouTube. So you can visit those channels to have an effective look into the communication thing. But then this highlights the importance of role play as well regarding your consultation, especially those husband and wife who both are dentists. They can actually do a wonderful thing. One of them can play a patient, and the other one who is supposed to consult the next day can do the role play and ask the counter questions so that you are actually prepared. Even if you are not a dentist couple, you can do that role play within your staff, with your associate, or maybe with your well-trained assistants as well, if you are not initially confident of doing it. Once you get confident, then sometimes role play goes out of the window. You actually are so smart enough that you will apprehend at least 80 to 90% of the questions majority of the times. Only 10-20 would be there, and then the patients would be there. Many a times patients tell me when I give them a consultation, again, not once in a week, but at least twice in a month thing, patients tell me, जो मेरे माइंड में था आपने पहले सारे पॉइंट्स आंसर कर दिए, कितना टाइम लगेगा, कितने पैसे लगेंगे, कितना लगेगा. We are actually afraid of telling such things. I tell them beforehand. इतनी सिटिंग्स लगेंगी, इतना टाइम लगेगा, इतनी सिटिंग्स इतने टाइम की होंगी अप्रॉक्सीमेटली, इतने टाइम की होंगी. Every breakup is given along with the treatment plan. Day 1 I do this, day 2 I do this, day 3 I do this. This is the way I work. Charter out your treatment plan. Think in mind, write it down, sleep over it, and then convey to the patient. If you are sure of yourself, you can convey it a lot better. Instant treatment plans, Maggie noodle treatment plans are sometimes half-hearted. Patient का OPG ऐसे करके देखा, not even on the digital screen, not even calculating it. अच्छा कोई बात नहीं, इसको ऐसे कर देंगे, इसको ऐसे कर देंगे. The patient will say, यार मेरे को तो कुछ नहीं समझ आता. It is a black and white thing for me. What do you want to do? Just give me out and written, sit with me, have some time. We are having one patient in the operatory and we are sitting in the waiting, looking at the OPG and conveying the treatment plan. And then we accept, and then we expect a case acceptance. Sorry, if the mistake is at your end and the patient does not get converted, you need to realize that the consultation is equally important. How many times I have emphasized the role of first consultation? And not always first consultation happens when the patient has walked in first. Sometimes you advise an investigation and then your first consultation begins. First consultation is the detailed process where you actually sit down with the patient and discuss all those things. So now along with no acceptance, I'll discuss the no-show and cancellation matrix. So when the patient cancels an appointment or chooses not to show up, of course, it is a personal thing. You cannot ask them sometimes, why don't you want to come? Why are you not coming? Some patients will tell the reason. They'll maybe make a lame excuse also. नहीं हमारे ना शादी आ गई है, so we are going there. We'll come back later. Maybe no, I'm not well, so I'll come back later. Maybe we have a certain program, so we'll be going, so we'll come back later. So sometimes situations are actually out of your control, but there are ways you can actually minimize those broken appointments. For example, just a small thing, orthodontic patients. Some of you might be orthodontists or at least doing ortho work. So a study was done. Orthodontic patients were asked how they keep track of their appointments. because their gaps are long, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks, sometimes 1 month after the sitting. So 27.8 or 28% responded that they relied on simply remembering they had an appointment. About those surveyed who actually forgot, that 40% said they merely forgot. So what are the key factors involved in this? What can you do to improve? Create and deliver appointment reminders, obviously with the consent of the patient. Always confirm them. I have by the text, email, WhatsApp, phone, whatever they wanted, and do so vice versa. Confirm them whether they are interested in you making them remind that. Then if you are using a software, you can automate the same via the system SMS, which is there in many of the softwares like Practo as well. So then educate and inform, I&E, alternate I&E, always about the value of treatment to their oral hygiene. This is in general. If you make them realize the importance, if you make them understand the importance of a relapse, then surely they will understand their treatment better and the cost effectiveness of the same as well. So if possible, if necessary, if the patients are perennial offenders, attach a small fee to the broken appointments, but inform them. If you don't come, you will be charged. Obviously, this is a permanent thing, not necessary. This is a permanent thing in the foreign countries. But yes, we can follow the same in India after the patient consent and ask them in bargain if they want the clinic or the office to call them a day before or on the day of the appointment to remind them. If they say yes, please do that. And if they know that they are going to pay a fee for that broken appointment that you have to convey beforehand, then they would surely want you to give them a reminder, or they will not forget it themselves also. जहां पे monetary penalty होती है ना, कोई भी नहीं चाहता पे करना extra. So another example, monthly new patient metrics. कितने new patients इस महीने में आए? We discussed patient attrition as one of the 11 factors last time. So we are all accustomed to that. Howsoever it is there, many people will be leaving the practice, whatever we say. So it sometimes, again, for most of the part, it is beyond our control. But then a steady stream of new patients can offset that attrition. 10 gaye to 20 naye aaye. That is the kind of a percentage that we look at it. Evaluate कि आपकी marketing strategy कौन सी successful हो रही है, or the referral process, word of mouth, website, form, search, or any paid marketing if you are doing. What is bringing in the new patients? The marketing KPI should be there. Again, further breakdown should be there to break them by source or by the type, as I discussed in the 6 factors last time. So check out your practice website for SEO, search engine optimization, and ease of use. If the site is in sync with the changing times, it is openable on mobiles. 85% of the searches happen on the mobile. 85% of the viewing these days happens on the mobile. Just 15% on laptop, PC, or other media or tablet. But 85%, the mobile phone has destroyed so many professions. The torchlight, the alarm, the music, the Kindle reader, or maybe the novels, and even surfing your net. Many things. Mobile has been responsible for destruction of so many professions. But yes, it is the one of the most equally viewed device. People keep it 24/7 with them. So seed through the eyes of your patient and site visitors. For example, if your default browser is Chrome in your PC or laptop, use another browser. For example, in Windows 10, you have an Edge. You can use the Edge browser or Opera or whatever. Use it through a different browser where you are not logged in. Always try to see it from another angle. How good your website is, because जहाँ पे आपका login है, शायद उसमें वो बहुत जल्दी खुलेगा because the cookies are already there in that. But if it is not in a different browser, the cookies might not be there. How much time does it take to download or upload? And accordingly, what are the, say, comfort levels? What are the see-through levels? What are the, say, impending problems that you can actually notice in there? So again, the website, is it easy to navigate from a different browser, benefit focused, or any call? Is there any clear call to action, CTA as we call them? Click here to schedule, click here to contact us, feedback form, testimonial. Are these easier call to action, are visible? Because the better the CTA is, the better your scheduling will happen. Ask for reviews and use your reviews, positive and negative, to tap into what your patients need, want, and desire. because getting an insight into the patient mindset is equally important. I said we cannot do that 100%, but yes, it is equally important to read your patient's mindset as well. What their questions are going to be, what are their common queries going to be. So the KYC जो होती है ना, know your customer, know your client, is not important only for the banks and the NBFCs, non-banking financial institutions, financial companies. So, but equally important for us as well. So we don't need to look. We actually need to look beyond the KYC into the RYPM. Read your patient mindset. That is what you can read it if you sit on an eye to eye level, communicate effectively, and try to read the patient's mind. Understand the patient's needs and the wants. Again, this one line I've been using since many years now. So these are the things you actually need to look at into it. So there is no absolute doubt that awareness of your KPIs will actually put you into a CTA mode also, a call to action mode for you also. So understand the metrics you should track, and the essential KPIs is the first step. If you're not sure what to track, pick out a couple, maybe from those list of 4 and 11, whatever you feel comfortable apart from the ones you are using, and maybe start with them. So again, your data on a daily basis analysis is your next step. For example, a reward and a HR KPI best practices followed in some companies. So the level 1 is the compensation by performance KPIs. Level 2, reward KPIs are linked to the strategy. Then level 3, rewards are not paid in cash. Level 4, fair pay, no bonuses. So this is the process which I said, motivate, innovate, strategize, and apply in your practice. So we all use the word KPI colloquially, but using it to measure your KPIs is actually become a table stake. So always find the right ones to health of your questions. But a few questions before that to ask yourself and your team. What are they? Why establishing a set of KPIs is important for you? Tell your staff, communicate with your staff, how to go about deciding which will bring more value. This is the process you have to do. I can only guide you about those. I can apply only my own as per my practice. I cannot tell you mine to apply in yours because your setup might be different from mine. Then what the top performing dentists in the city, state, or country, your neighborhood, your state, and maybe the industry standard are using to measure their performance and drive practice growth. This is the question: how, why, and what you need to understand. So unless you quantifiably measure it, you cannot actually evaluate and improve the performance. So dentistry is no different. We all know the KPIs are not widely used. This is a stranger thing because somehow, with no disrespect, I feel that majority of the dentists are still in the state of shock after their +2, since they skipped the MBBS and they went into a perennial depression. There are very, very few dentists who actually love dentistry, who actually think, breathe, and eat and drink and sleep dentistry. Very few dentists I have come across. Majority are just taking time as it comes, killing time in dentistry, I would say. Dentistry was never my choice of profession. If I am living it, I can live it. Why can't you? I am an engineer by birth. हर रोज कोई ना कोई मशीन खोलता हूं मैं घर में. But again, my perspective, my choice, my like, my love, and my profession are all different things altogether. And there has to be a balance in between. It is not always that unless you want to perform or you have to just earn from it, so you are doing it. Unless you love it, you will not be able to measure it. So be the one who will do so. And trust me, the KPIs are very, very less used in India in dentistry. But again, this is the only way you can actually measure your growth, and those metrics can actually help you achieve those goals and targets. So I said before also, a practice cannot manage what they cannot measure. So KPI is without KPIs, it is like building a house without a map or without a blueprint. So you have no idea how close you are to achieving your targets or goals because you're just not measuring. We live in a false paradise. नहीं इतना तो हो ही गया होगा, कोई बात नहीं. नहीं अच्छा किया हमने इसमें, नहीं अच्छा काम हो गया. Just all those guessworks and assumptions, or maybe relying only on the total gross income. That are never the true indicators. So if you don't have clearly defined KPIs, you are not effectively managing KPI as per your competition. If that smile has turned into a flat line, let me give you the carry home gyan. So how do you determine which KPIs are right ones? अब question है कि sir आपने दे तो दिया, how do you determine? Good KPIs should align with your practice strategy and goals. Should use accurate and reliable data from your record keeping. Create ownership of performance from staff to providers. Of course, the owner's accountability has to be there on someone. So determine your most important goals. Write your top goals for your practice, and some easy to achieve and some should be reachable goals in that. So once you have 3 to 5 important goals, identifying right KPIs will be easy. So some examples which include practice productivity. That, for example, I want to increase my productivity by X in the implants, number of times, 1x, 2x, 3x. Maybe add an associate to the practice and improve monthly production overall by X. X can be specified by you. So select KPIs for each department that drives your goal forward. So separate KPIs for staff, doctors, specialists, consultants in your practice. And most common KPIs usually are the production per day or the number of patients per day, patient retention and production per visit, or the output per work done per visit. So for example, if your goal is to improve your implant case acceptance rate, some KPIs may top your list, especially the ones which are dealing with patient consultation and the verbatim or the verbal processes. So implement a scoreboard and display it very clearly. Scoreboard not realistically, but to understand it by them, because it is the way you communicate to your staff that is over there. So imagine a game of football, the same example that I gave you for cricket. Imagine a game of football where the coach only knows the score, but not the players. So teams that want to win play much harder when they know where they stand and how far they are from their goal, so that they can double their effort in lesser the amount of time. So moral of the whole story, the top 10 KPIs followed all over the world for dentists, not in India primarily. Yes, the US, European, and American subcontinent included. So monthly gross production, monthly net production, monthly gross production from fee for service, monthly gross production from PPOs and managed care, monthly net collections, account receivables, monthly practice overhead, hygiene reappointment, new patients per month, day works per year, day worked per year. These are the most common 10 KPIs. But the biggest goal is providing the best care, but you still can't let the business side of your practice slide down, because else you will be going out of the business soon. So, or maybe earning less for your home. And remember, if you are not earning well, कल रात जो मैंने सेशन लिया है ऑन फाइनेंशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी, उसके लिए पैसा यहीं से आएगा. If you're not in love with your profession, you're not measuring it, you're not earning aptly, so you will not be able to invest only. Then everything goes haywire, everything goes zero. So this is the basics for that. So if you offer the best care to the patient, that is your first goal. The how the practice is performing financially should be your second goal in that. How efficiently is your practice running should be your question. So with a good set of KPIs in place, you can actually keep an eye of revenue cycle management, quickly make adjustments to enjoy improved results. So today, professions should not only be scientifically and patient driven, but a whole range of there to how to provide the best possible care, ensure sustainable performance, and effectively manage costs. And we all don't need the right tools, analytics, but the right metrics also to track. So thank you so much for a patient hearing. So a few things coming up. My dad's second death anniversary tomorrow. So have 15 videos on mutual fund coming from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. one every hour on my YouTube channel. I'll announce in the group also today. Duration 5 to 6 minutes each, A to Z of mutual funds. So a session at 3 p.m. Tomorrow. Know your cost, the road to a profitable dentistry. Will be on the dad's official FB page. So a session on WDA, costing in dentistry, profitability. The content of both presentations would be different at 9 p.m. tomorrow. And YouTube channel link as on today, January 29 June 2021, 340 plus videos already on my channel. So if you have not yet subscribed, go there, because I'm posting a video almost daily. So this is my email and website, my social media presence, the new ones added, the LinkedIn and the Clubhouse. Have a Clubhouse session series also starting from 1st July onwards, the doctors and the CS day. So do send me your feedback in the WhatsApp group wherever you are. If you feel that KPIs actually helped you, or my KPI come motivational talk for today morning help you, do post in your feedback in the WhatsApp group wherever you are. So thank you so much, and I stop my share for the queries from any of you. Firstly, I'll take up from the chat, and then live from anyone if you if there are. Okay. So how do you know that what KPI the top dental clinics are using? So you don't need to actually measure trap their KPIs. You actually need to know what exactly their way of working is, what benchmarks they are using in their work standards. The social media is a big indicator. People keep on sharing their cases. Go to those cases, check out intricately what they are, and accordingly, of course, if somebody is using the latest materials, that is one indicator that yes, they are in sync with their cost most of the time. They are into profitable business. What the top clinics are using, you might not be needing it. I always say this is a customizable thing. Pick and choose as per your growth of the practice, as per your need of the practice, maybe from your number of OPD or maybe from the number of revenue that you have. We all know that. Go ahead with the next step and pick as per your choice what would be the best one for your practice, and don't blindly copy anyone in that regard. As I said, start with the couple, start with 2 3 from the list of so many indicators that I've given. Even you can pick up from the US and the European list what you feel it will be easy for you to apply, or what you and your staff can actually track. Don't give them unreachable goals. That is what I said in this carry home gyan also. Pick up those 5 goals first. A few of them should be reachable, trackable, attainable. uh, the criteria started from smarter only, the smart approach or the smarter approach. So if it is a attainable goal, measurable goal, and of course if it is not, evaluate and reevaluate. You can change the indicator which is not applicable in your practice. So accordingly you can pick, and it can be a trial and error process also for some, but yes, this is the way you actually learn and practice in that sense. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any more questions? No questions?
Sir, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Sir, after extraction, patients always apprehend to tell something. I always deal the patient in such a way. Please take me some time. I will tell you all the instructions, and then if you have any questions, then ask me any questions. Is that a right approach?
Yes, you can do it, but you can use a fun way also. What I say is, for a brushing demo, usually my staff can also give, but most of the time I give it. Instructions, most of the time I give it. What I say is, let me narrate you a audio tape. It has been recorded in my system since year 2000, और मैं ये टेप मैं रोज किसी ना किसी को सुनाता हूँ. So ये मेरी टेप के words and sequence will be very appropriate. So the patient can sometimes laugh it out also, and then they start to pay attention that what exactly is the tape that the doctor has recorded since 20 years now. The only thing is to set up a curiosity quotient in the patient so that they know what I'm going to dish them. The instructions anyways will not take more than 30 seconds or so. So when you speak them, always speak them slowly, always narrate them in a way, repeat certain things, always summarize certain things in the end, surely, so that the patient knows that whatever history you have taken, the 3 most important points are this: not to spit, not to rinse, not to eat anything hot, not to give a kind of a support over there from any external source, heat waves. So this is the way you actually can rephrase or paraphrase those things at the end, so that the patient is also in sync ki puri cheez batai, par ye 3 cheez is the carry home point from that. I have given you enough, but why do I summarize also and then give you carry home gyan also, and then I give you moral of the story also? This is to actually concise that down and taper it down to 1.2.3 points. This is the way you can do in your practice also, so that the patient has an interest quotient in that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Parul, you'll need to watch those in series, because again, the sequencing has to be in a way. I always make sure that that is appropriate and nobody feels left out, that why is this thing discussed later or why this thing first. There are particular reasons for that. Thank you, Dr. Divya. Thank you, Dr. Varna. So total we have more than 30 KPI. Yes, more than 30. I'll say close to 50 only. Whatever I have given you, more than 50 rather, I would say. But yes, you don't need 50. You need just 5 or 6 to apply as per your practice. So what are the best ones for you that you can pick and apply in your practice? Thank you, Dr. Kanaga. Thank you, Dr. Bhavna. So we break then. I'll get back to you on 1st or 2nd of July in the group, since I have 2 very busy days. Even the 3rd day, 1st July is a busy one for me. I'll get back to you in the text mode, a few instructions for the end of MPG. So I'll let you know by 2nd or 3rd of July. I'll let you know accordingly. So take care, and the end of the webinar for today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Raghu.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Bye. Bye. Take care. Have a nice day. You too.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye.